interview or were asked to be in an interview and just dreaded it? Or maybe you went into the interview and felt very, very nervous. Why? Why do interviews have to be so hard? Why? In this video, I'm going to have a very real discussion with you about interviewing and why interviews are so hard, in hopes that you learn from our conversation today of strategies that you can do to make your interviews a lot easier than what they have been in the past. Often people really struggle with this, and it costs them the jobs that they're trying to go for. It costs them the ability to negotiate their salaries. It really can do a lot. So let's unpack. Let's just take some time, spend some time with each other, and let's just have a real conversation about why interviews are so hard. Now, I have been in a C-suite role, a manager and a director role, and a supervisor for the past 20 years of my professional life. And I know a lot about interviewing. I have done hundreds of interviews at this point. I have looked at hundreds of resumes at this point, and I have seen a lot. And I understand why interviews are hard. I see how individuals respond, so I want to be able to share that information with you. Now, if you are a woman in leadership, I work specifically with you, and I appreciate you all for watching this video, because you are watching this video on the replay. And if you are not in the woman in leadership category of my core audience, I appreciate you for just being here, because I know you want to do well in your next interview, and I'm here to support you any way that I can on your journey, regardless of what gender you are. I do want to say that this is a live video, and so oftentimes, many of you know in the lives, if you've watched my videos before, there's a point in time where people start to join, and when they join, I will say hello to them, greet them, and we'll go ahead and just have this real conversation as to why interviews are so hard. Are you ready? If you like this information, then feel free to like this video, and you're always welcome to subscribe. If you really want to go to that next level in your leadership journey and communicate at a higher level, this is the place for you. So I want to say welcome to all of you who have joined today. If you are ready, my leaders, to have a real conversation about why interviews are so hard and ask some questions that you have been wanting to know about the interview process, then this is the place for you to be right now on YouTube. Feel free to leave me any messages. Let me know what part of the world are you joining from today, so that I know where I can say hello to. So if you are ready to know why interviews are so hard and why you want to master these issues, then feel free to subscribe to the channel. This is where I talk about how you can communicate at a higher level than your peers to secure these employment opportunities that you are looking for. So I want to say hello to Wonder Facts. Hello, welcome. Baka Z. Hello, welcome. Hope y'all are doing fantastically well today. This is a serious conversation, leaders. We are talking about how you can overcome some of the very common challenges that come up that make interviews so hard. So now that we have some of our leaders here, I want to talk to you all directly, and those that are watching the replay, as to why are interviews so hard? And if you have any questions as it relates to why interviews are so hard, or maybe some questions you've been asked that have made it hard, then put them in the comments below. Let me know, and I will be sure to answer those questions as it's related to this topic. Why are interviews so hard? Let me know in the comments below. Why do you think interviews are so hard? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll share with you what my perspective is over the past 20 years as a C-suite executive, a manager, and a director as to why people struggle with interviews. So to start, why interviews are so hard. And as I mentioned, this is a candid conversation that I'm just sharing with you my very humble opinion. One of the reasons why interviewing is so hard is that there is a perception of interviewing that has been taught to us over the decades, and probably even over the centuries, I would say. And it almost comes across as if you are being interrogated, right? Sometimes it feels like you are being interrogated because the person, the interviewer, is asking you a lot of questions, and it feels like someone just has a white light on you, interrogating you, like, why did you do this? How did you do this? And etc. I personally have been in interviews where I have felt interrogated, and it doesn't feel too nice at all. And it's a bit of a challenge. So oftentimes we have this perception that it's just somebody going to ask us questions. So interrogation is not a positive word. It's just not. So we have this perception that this is what we think we're going to go into as an interrogation. So that starts initially. So let me look in the chat really quickly before I go into this very real conversation with y'all about why interviewing is hard. All right, so we have Truth is Speaking. Hello, Truth is Speaking. Welcome, welcome. Glad you're here today. Let me know where you are joining from in this big, beautiful world today. So Truth Speaking said, hi, I subscribe you. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you for subscribing. Welcome, welcome. You are going to elevate how you communicate as a leader on this channel. I share with you real advice, real strategies. You're getting over 20 years worth of expertise as a C-suite executive, a manager, a director, executive coach, and a public speaker to help you communicate at that higher level than your peers so that you can go to that next level in your journey as a leader and just communicate at that awesome level that other people do not. So thank you for subscribing. I'm glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. I have a lot of videos on my live that can support you. So if you have any topics you're looking into, interviewing and etc., executive presence, public speaking, just check out my lives. I go live consistently. So there's a lot of lives here that you might want to check out since you just subscribed to the channel. And welcome, welcome. So we talked a bit about why interviewing. All right, sorry about that. My audio went out. It does that sometimes on my lives. But let's see what came through. Truth is Speaking. I'm so excited. Well, I'm so excited to have you. Welcome, welcome. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm here really to help you on your journey, regardless of where you are, especially if you're trying to communicate at that higher level so you can do amazing things, which I know that you will. All right, so we talked about there's this perception that interviews are like an interrogation. So that makes interviewing hard because we're already going in knowing that someone's going to be potentially shining a light on us, asking a lot of questions about us personally that we may not feel comfortable answering. This leads into my second reason why interviewing is so hard. Depending on where you are from, what culture you are from, many of us are not taught how to talk about ourselves. Often we are taught the exact opposite. I know for me personally, and I know this has happened to a lot of my clients, when they are in different type of settings, they don't feel comfortable talking about themselves. This is probably one of the number one issues that come up in an interview setting, and why people struggle with them is that they do not feel comfortable talking about themselves. Why? Because we are told not to brag, right? Don't brag about yourself. Don't be arrogant. Don't be like that. No one likes that. And so in interviewing, it's a balance. You're not bragging about yourself. You're not being arrogant. You're just talking about how awesome you are and how awesome you are in doing whatever it is that you're doing right now. And this is a reason why people struggle with interviews, because they are not comfortable talking about themselves in a very positive light. Many of us are more comfortable talking about the negative things that we do. Oh, I'm not good at this, right? I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. But I encourage you that you're watching this video, and this is just a real candid conversation. Let's turn that around. Let's talk about what you're really good at. What are you amazing at? Put it in the comments below. Let me know, what are you good at? What are you really good at that other people say that you're good at? Let's start growing together. Place some things in the comments below, and this is how we start making interviews not as hard. So I'm going to look in the comments really quickly. All right, Pro BTC, welcome back, welcome back. How are you doing today? Good to see you. Welcome back, welcome back. And so Pro BTC is talking about Bitcoin price. So we had a nice conversation about Bitcoin before, and so he's back again to talk about Bitcoin. So let's see how this conversation goes today. Pro BTC, maybe we talk a little bit about Bitcoin. We'll see. And you let me know if you have something else you want to share. So I appreciate that. Okay, so we talked about a couple reasons people are not comfortable speaking about themselves. And oftentimes we may have been taught not to do this, not to speak so highly of ourselves. And I mentioned to you to write down a couple of things that you've done that have been amazing. This is actually something I do to my clients. in a one-on-one setting, whether we are in the Real Executive Woman or we are doing an executive strategy session, preparing for interviews, I get them to start developing their stories and really start thinking about the amazing things that they have done so that they remember them in their mind and talk about them. That's another reason why people think and why interviews are so hard. Another reason why interviews are so hard is because we are not taught how to interview. We are taught how to interview in a way that is probably very archaic and has been done maybe decades and decades and decades ago. An example of this is tell me about yourself. So we've talked about tell me about yourself on this channel. I believe I have a live video that talks about tell me about yourself. So definitely check that out. I go into this in many of my lives. So watch my live videos. It has a lot of information about tell me about yourself and how you answer this question that I know you will be asked in your interview. But people don't know how to answer tell me about yourself. So this is something I tell my clients in a one-on-one session. Tell me about yourself should be, tell me about how you can help my company. That's really what it is. It is not the chronological list of items where you talk about, well, I went to school here and I graduated there and then I lived in this state and then I lived in this country and I did this and did that. There is a certain way you answer, tell me about yourself. And if you need some help with answering this type of question, then just reach out to me for an executive strategy session. I have a link in the description below just for a basic strategy session. So we can just have a conversation and talk about where you are, where you need help with, and go from there. So how do you prepare yourself for an interview? Often people just go in and wing it, right? Sometimes they just go in and wing it. Well, I want to encourage you to think of it a bit differently. And this is the reason why interviews are so hard. If you are struggling with your interviews and there's job opportunities that you have not been able to secure just yet, then it is time for you to invest in yourself. Investing in yourself is one of the best ways for you to accelerate in your career, not necessarily only in the form of interviewing, but if you're trying to really advance and you're serious about it. That's the first thing. You have to be very serious about, I want to get this job, I want to get this interview, I want to get this position, I want to go to this next level of my career. There comes a point in time where only YouTube videos can help you but so much. There comes a point in time where you get tired of trying to figure it out and you're just not getting it. There comes a point in time where you have to say, you know what, I don't know all the answers, I need help. Now, I've done this many times, especially as an executive coach. There's other coaches that I work with, some other name brands that are out there that I've actually purchased courses from and things along those lines, because I don't have answers to every single question as it relates to different topics relating to YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, businesses, and etc. So I reach out for help. And I share this with you because I have a lot of my clients that I work with that mention to me that they are struggling, but they decide to make that step to invest in themselves. And investing in yourself doesn't necessarily have to be you're paying thousands and thousands of dollars. It doesn't have to necessarily be like that. There's a lot of great resources out there. There's resources here, obviously, on my YouTube channel for free. I have a couple paid masterclasses. One is actually on executive communication, communicating at a higher level. I have another masterclass on interview preparation, and I have a third masterclass on salary negotiation. And there is a fee with it, but it is not that big of a fee. So it's something just check out. I'll go back after this video and look at and put the descriptions in the links below, but they're on my website at www.exciteexcellence.org under products and services. So you have to invest in yourself because sometimes you just need help with someone to tell you how you should structure yourself in an interview. Now, you always want to be your authentic self. Like I always tell my clients, you have to be you. You have to be yourself. Please do not pretend to be anybody else. But you should be able to present yourself as the most confident and the best candidate of choice for the position. So just invest in yourself. Find somebody that can help you, that can guide you to tell you, these are some things you might want to change in your interview. Now, before I go into investing and talking about that, this is another thing you want to keep in mind. Also, everybody, and this is me talking to you, I mentioned at the beginning of this live, this is a real conversation. Everybody that says they can help you prepare for an interview or guide you in the interview process cannot do it. And let me explain to you why. Because often, and I have seen this happen not once, not twice, not 3 times, I would say at least 10 times with the clients that I've worked with. They have reached out to people to help them with their interviews, and they have not been able to gain good insight. The individuals I work with, the women I work with, they're very high achievers. So they've already have most of the time some form of a advanced degree, and they are in these higher level roles, and they're trying to transition to that next position. And so they're very articulate. And if you have been in interview situations, you can communicate in the interview. And if you go to certain individuals or certain coaches, I don't have a name, I'm just sharing this just to keep in mind when I talk about investing, you still have to be guarded with your investment because this is your hard-earned money that you're working for. But when you're looking for help, just make sure, even if it's not with me and if it's with someone else, just make sure these individuals have actually done interviews on a very large scale. What I found that is out there nowadays, and even though I'm an executive coach, I will tell you what's working and what are some things that you still need to be wary of, whether we work together or not, is that there are people out there who have practiced interviews, but they haven't actually done interviews themselves. And the unfortunate thing is that they're out broadcasting or indicating that they can help somebody do well in the interview, and the only response they give them is, "Oh, you're doing a wonderful job," and that's it. Like there's no other, that is very, very surface level type of responses that you receive. And this is not how you do well in the interview. So be very careful. Make sure whoever it is you work with to help you do well in your interviews has done interviews at a large scale. They cannot be someone who has only done interviews a few times and have done very well, and they can do it themselves, but they can't show anybody else. You don't want individuals like that, because you'll end up investing it and you'll be regretful for your investment because you feel like you're not learning, you're not getting a lot of depth. This happens a lot with the clients I work with, and that's why they come to me to get that higher level, very high touch, high quality support to move forward in their journey. So keep this in mind. Just investing is important to get to that next level so you can learn how to interview, how to speak in a condensed format. Now, of course, if you're trying to public speak and do more of your executive communication, that involves a lot more time compared to just an interview. But keep in mind, there does come a point when you do have to invest in yourself if you're really stuck in your interviewing process and you're not getting where you want to be. Just get help. Get help from someone, but just be mindful of who you're investing in. That's what I'm trying to say. Be mindful. Make sure that these individuals have been in a place, they have done interviews at scale, and they have been those major decision makers in employment opportunities. That is my disclaimer for you all today. You have to be careful. You have to be careful. You really do. So we've talked about a couple reasons why interviews are hard. So I want to know from you all in the audience, what are some reasons why you think that interviews are hard? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you've had any hard interviews. I will share with you one of the harder interviews that I had and what I did with it and how I did very well with it. Another reason why people struggle with interviews and why interviews are so hard is that we simply sometimes do not know what to say. And we have a lot in our mind, we have a lot to say, but we don't know how to say it, and we don't know how to say it in a concise way. This is another reason why interviews are so hard. So what are some things that you can do to speak in a more concise way? First is to work on your stories, as I've talked about in many of my videos. Work on the stories. What are the accomplishments that you have completed in your roles that you can talk about in a interview? Then you want to try your best to time yourself in terms of how long you are responding to a question. Most of the time in interviews that I've done, people will talk a lot longer than they need to. And I'm telling you this from being on the other side of the desk, that when a candidate starts talking and talking and talking and talking, and they don't know when to wrap up a question or pause or stop, we start to lose interest. And as soon as your hiring manager loses interest, your likelihood of being able to obtain this job, secure this opportunity, went from up here because they called you from the interview, and it goes way down really fast because they are not able to pay attention to what you have to say. And I'll tell you, from the back end, on the other side of the desk, we typically have a lot of things to do, and so do you. Of course, interviewers and interviewees have a lot to do, but from the manager perspective, we are trying to secure employment with a role, with someone. And we have other candidates we can interview. We have probably meetings we need to go to. We have a lot. So we want your interview to be a really great experience. And if you want to make your interview a great experience, then contact me and we'll talk about it and we'll figure out how to make it happen for you. But just look in the description below for the chat. Let's chat. It is right underneath there, my Calendly link. But they want it to be a good experience. So it cannot be a good experience if it's not interesting, or if you are saying so much that I lose interest. So making sure that you have your stories in line, what you want to talk about specifically, and then also knowing as well that you have to be concise in your responses. It's good for you to talk, but it's not good for you to talk for too long. You don't want to talk for too long. I tell my clients, and I share this with you all on YouTube because you all are here and I appreciate your support. And I don't mind to share things that will help you, even though we may not work together or we may never work together. But try to keep your interview responses at least between 1 minute and 30 seconds to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. If you look at people that are responding online in different leadership roles, maybe they are public officials and etc., I want you to take a moment, and I'm going to actually be working on this on my channel too and providing you with these insights, but take a moment and listen and watch how long they speak during their responses. Their responses are enough to where they're giving depth and answering the question. Sometimes, as you know, sometimes leaders in the public eye, they don't answer the questions, but that's another topic for another day. But watch how long they respond. You will notice a trend. You will start to notice a trend. If it is a very, I would say, very polished speaker, they do not speak for too long. They don't. They know how to say what they need to say and wrap it up pretty quickly because there may be another question to ask that they need to answer. Now, if there is a topic that you need to truly emphasize, then slightly go over that time. But I wouldn't go too much more over 2 minutes and 30 seconds for a response because it starts to get long and it starts to get disinteresting to the interviewer. Now, I know some of you may say, ouch, I did not know that, and I just want to share and I just want to explain. Well, I hope that you take what I'm sharing with you in the mindset I'm trying to help you. I want you to do really, really well. And it can be a struggle if you're talking too much. So let me look in the chat because I saw something pop up. Okay, Truth is Speaking said, I only fear silence. Okay, Truth. I can talk about silence all day long. And I know I cannot talk about it all day long tonight, but I would absolutely talk about this all day long. So let's talk about what Truth said. And I think this is a very good point. And Truth, I'd say, let's add this to our list as to why interviews are so hard. Because sometimes people are afraid of silence. Now, so Truth, I want to tell you something that for you to think about. Most people are afraid of silence. Why? Why are most people afraid of silence? Let me know in the comments below. Why are you afraid of silence? This is for anybody watching the replay. Let me know. Most of the time people are afraid of silence is because it's awkward, right? It's awkward. There's a point where nothing is being said. You're looking at them. They're looking at you. And it just feels awkward, right? Well, I encourage you, let's think about it a little bit differently. Silence can actually be one of the most confident building, executive presence developing, powerful strategies that you can have as a leader. Let me explain to you how becoming comfortable with silence is very, very powerful. I call it, this is why I tell my clients, the power in the pause. There is power there. So there's a lot of reasons, and I'm going to do an overview because literally I could talk about this all day. When you are speaking, and this is something you practice, this is something I do with my clients in a one-on-one setting also, but when you are speaking, it's good for you to try to practice staying silent and becoming more comfortable with it. Initially, it's awkward. And yes, truth is speaking said, yes, awkward. It is awkward. It can be very awkward. So think about it this way. If it's awkward for majority of people, then how amazing will you be if you can master that awkward silence? Everybody can't do it. So if you can be in that very small percentage of people that can, that sets you apart. And this is why I do what I do on my channel in terms of helping individuals master those elite communication skills, because most people cannot do silence. They can't do the silence and they can't do eye contact. It's just awkward. It's very, very awkward and people don't like it. So if you can master it, think about it. Now think about it really carefully. If you can do what other people cannot do, then how far will that help you exceed in your career? This goes for anything. This goes for businesses. This goes for leadership. This goes for jobs. This goes for careers. Sometimes you have to learn skills and techniques that other people are not willing to do. Most people will say, I don't like silence. It's awkward. And it is. I will admit to you it's awkward, even though I use it all the time. But it's something that you want to try to master. Because if you're in an interview setting and you can master silence, then you've overcame a fear. And many people that are coming in behind you for a position will not be able to do it. They will just get nervous or they'll say, I don't know what to say, I'm not sure, and etc. So trying to master silence is important. So let me give you some examples of how you can master silence, and I'll give you some examples of how silence can really, really, really make a difference. And I'll give you a scenario of this. So the ways you can master silence is the key, truth is speaking, is to just practice. It's something you have to practice. And it's almost, and I'm trying to give it the best equivalent as I can, but this is the only thing that's coming to my mind right now. So if you have ever watched any cowboy movies, right? Cowboy movies where there's like one cowboy here and one cowboy there, and then they're like looking and squinting, and then they're just looking to see who's gonna blink first. It's like that. And so when you have those situations where it feels awkward, you have to be that person that doesn't blink first, if that makes sense. When you don't blink, or if you can be the person to hold your silence the longest, it gives you such amount of leverage and power in a conversation, because as I mentioned, most people are not comfortable doing this. They're not comfortable being silent. So it's something, truth is speaking, that I would recommend for you to practice. Practice in your day-to-day conversations. I tell my clients all the time, get a video, record yourself. That is one of the best ways for you to start to see how other people are speaking and how other people are viewing you when you are speaking to them. And just practice silence. And just remember what I said, the next time when you're in an interview and that silence comes, I want you to envision what I just told you about the Cowboys, right? The Cowboys and how they're looking and who's going to blink first. Think about it that way and be that person that does not blink first or that waits until it's time to actually speak. It will give you tremendous power. And let me give you an example as to how this can actually impact you significantly, especially in salary negotiations. So if you are wanting to gain more insight on salary negotiations, I have a masterclass on that. Salary negotiations is something where silence is really important. So we talked about this actually yesterday with Daniel. We were talking about salary negotiations. That's another viewer on the channel. And this is sometimes what will happen. People will ask you a question. They'll say, well, what salary do you want to have? Or what salary do you want? How much money do you want to make when you're in an interview? And oftentimes we feel like we have to say something back. We have to say something back immediately. That's why that silence is awkward, because we feel like we have to say something back. However, if you are able to turn that around and say, what salary do you offer for someone with my level of expertise, and stay silent for at least 5, maybe 8 seconds or so, it shows the interviewer or the hiring manager that you can put a question back on them, and that you can live okay in the silent world. And I will tell you, even though that person may be offering you a position and you push back and you say something and you stay silent and you just look, then that person, believe it or not, they may not be comfortable with silence, and they may start to scramble a bit and say, oh, well, I'm not quite sure what, well, actually, it just depends. And you will start to see, if you observe them, you will start to see how they respond and act differently based off of you giving off silence. Silence is powerful, truth is speaking. It is so powerful. I would say the top skills I would tell anybody, if you're trying to establish yourself as a leader and do some amazing things, are silence and observing. And these skills themselves will help you to establish a very, very, very influential executive presence to help you move forward. Okay, so there's something else that came in the chat. Okay, Truth is Speaking says, most of the time I feel silence sending mixed messages, mixed signals. Well, it just depends on the context and how you say what you say before your silence. If you are in an interview setting and they ask a question and you give them a response back and you are silent after the response, then you're basically waiting for them to respond back to you. However, if you are, let's say they ask you a question and you don't know how to answer it, like you really don't know how to answer it. If they ask you a question and you stay silent before you answer, then that will give the signal that you don't know what you're saying, or that you're not sure, or that you're thinking. So one of the things I talk about here on my channel is how you can buy yourself time so that there's not that dead silence before you speak. The silence before you speak should be when you're trying to make a big impact, when you're trying to make a big statement. And like, as I said, silence is something I can talk about all night long. And I know I can't because it would be too late. But if you want to talk more about it, then definitely contact me for a strategy session. But if you can buy yourself time, if you're in an interview and you don't know what to say, then use a couple things I talked about during my live yesterday, and I talk about all the time. There's questions you can say. You may say, can you repeat the question? That's a very interesting perspective. I'm really glad that you asked that. Saying another type of a question or a statement before you make a response is a great way for you to be able to buy yourself time so you can start thinking in your mind, how do you want to respond to this question, just for a few seconds, because that will give you time to talk. So that's one time where silence is there's times when you can use silence, and there's times when you do not want to use silence. Most of the time, silence is something you want to use after you speak, for the most part. It is a good way to basically show whoever you're speaking to or that you're communicating with, I have spoken and I'm waiting for you to respond. And it sets you up as a leader, as a person who is in control of the conversation. If you're silent before you speak, then sometimes it can show that you're not quite sure of what you want to say. And that's the reason why I tell my clients, and I tell you all here on YouTube, to buy yourself time if you don't know what to say. There's a list of questions I've talked about here on YouTube and statements you can make. There's a lot more, but there's always ways to buy you time. Now, sometimes silence can give mixed messages, mixed signals, as Truth is Speaking mentioned. It just depends on your tone of voice. And I talk about tone of voice here a lot on my channel, so feel free to watch some of my lives. You'll see me talk about that a lot. Your tone of voice is important. So if you have a very light tone of voice and you're communicating in a friendly manner, or if it's an interview and there's just a mutual exchange of information and a conversation, then silence is okay, because you're not going to be talking to the interviewer saying, no, I don't think I want to do that. I think I did this job and this job. You're not going to talk to anybody like that, especially not in an interview. I hope not, because then they would say, no, that's okay. We'll go with another candidate. But if you are in a more contentious situation, like I've been in very, very contentious situations where I've had to use silence, and I use silence after I speak, then it just all depends on my tone of voice. So I have a video here, Truth is Speaking, that specifically talks about tone of voice. You might want to check that one out, because if you have that fear of silence, and I'm hoping that the next time you have a conversation or an interview, you think about my cowboy scenario and try not to be the first person to blink or to speak, depending on the situation. Now, as you mentioned, you don't want to give mixed signal that you're just maybe a different type of person to work with. There's just times when you strategically need to use silence. It is so important. And I've been doing public speaking for over 20 years. I've interacted with congressional leaders over the years, and I've been in those contentious situations. And I will tell you, this is important. Like, you need to have it. So it can send mixed signals. It's just a matter of what is your tone of voice before you using your silence. If it's a very jovial tone of voice, then it's probably not, no one's going to really think too much of it. But if you're talking about a very serious conversation or a serious topic, your silence is going to speak volumes, because people are going to say, wow, okay, what's going on? Or to go to the next level, if we're not talking about interviewing, when you are doing a conference or public speaking or etc., if you use silence, it is a great way to add effect to your presentation or your speech. And it is also a great way to have your audience with the ability to think. So if you are talking about a topic and you say, what are your thoughts? I just paused. I just stopped talking. And you're waiting for the audience to respond, then you're giving the audience time to think. And this is the same process as it is with interviewing, as it is with different types of leadership roles, or even at your job, or etc. Mastering silence is so important, truth is speaking. I could talk about this all night, literally. It is so important because most of the people in the world are not comfortable with silence. There are some cultures that are very comfortable with silence, but depending on where you are from, a lot of people aren't comfortable with silence, and they feel like they always have to say something to fill up the room, which in actuality, silence can help you develop your executive presence, which is something that I have a ton of expertise in, and I help my clients do. So I hope that helps you in terms of silence. I know we talked about it quite a bit. This is very, very important to be able to master silence. If you want me to go even into more detail on silence, I can do it. I could definitely do a masterclass on silence all by itself. And I know it sounds very odd, but this is one of the most important skills you can learn to master. Because if you can master it and other people can't, it's hard. And I tell people all the time, people become great because of how they communicate. And silence is a huge part of communicating as well. Okay, so let me see what else is in the chat. Truth is Speaking says, thank you, you're amazing. Well, thank you. I appreciate you mentioning that. And silence is it's a really great topic, Truth is Speaking. I'm so glad you mentioned it, because that is another reason why interviewing is hard. People are not comfortable with silence because they don't know what to do. They feel just awkward. So it's something to practice. I hope everyone practices silence. Remember my cowboy scenario, who's going to blink first? And I hope after you're watching this video and following my channel is not you, because you're going to be the person that is communicating at a higher level, that has an executive presence. And believe it or not, that will actually stand out to the interviewer, because you are going to be someone that appears to be very confident and has next level skills that other candidates may not have. So just keep that in mind. All right, so we have IXFX. Hello, welcome. Hello, IXFX said, hello, is this live? Yes, it absolutely is. And let's see what else was mentioned, especially in this time of age. Okay, IXFX said the odd part is you talking about silence, but yet leave any. So there's times when it depends on what you're talking about. So with me having a conversation right now, this is a conversation like I'm talking to a leader, I'm talking to a colleague, I'm talking to a friend, and I don't necessarily have to pause when I'm talking to a friend unless there's something that I need to make an emphasis on. And as I mentioned earlier when I was speaking with Truth is Speaking, having your silence after you speak makes a big impact. Sometimes you make it before you actually speak, because it just depends on what you're trying to do. I'll give you an example. If someone is asking you a very difficult question and it's a sensitive topic, if you want to show effect, that this is something you're really thinking about, then you can use silence. You may already know what you're going to say, but you may use silence before you speak. It just depends on the interaction and what you're talking about. When you're having questions being asked, or if you've been on, let's say I've been on the news before, and when I'm asked questions, I typically will respond to them relatively quickly once I get a response on the news. Now, if I want to make an effect, then I will do my pause at the end or in the middle to make a big effect. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. I've been on the news before, so I've been doing public speaking. As I mentioned, I could talk about this all night, like literally. I hope you all see that I could talk about silence all night, which is the reason why I focus on executive level elite communication skills for my audience, because this is just my passion. This is just what I do. But depends on your conversation. I'm talking to you all like I'm talking to my friends, like I'm talking to my colleagues, and I'm here just sharing with you my very humble opinion in terms of how silence can help you. So I don't necessarily need to have silence because we're just talking, unless there's something I want to say for effect. But these are the reasons why interviewing is so hard. We've went over a lot of great scenarios, and I appreciate Truth is Speaking and everyone else that has joined today that provided any insight. You all have been great, and these are really great topics because this is how we can help each other learn and help each other grow by having these conversations. Truth is Speaking mentioned a really great point about why this is such a silence is an issue. Well, there is probably not that many videos on YouTube that are talking about why silence is there's a fear in this silence. So on my channel specifically, I talk about real strategies, real situations, and real scenarios that happen. A lot of people on YouTube, they have either done one or two things. Sometimes they have really great information to share. There's a lot of great content creators on YouTube. I will tell you that now and forever. But there's some people out there that talk a bit more in the terms of theories as it relates to leadership and communication and hypotheses. And that's not what I do. I really will share with you what I have seen that have been very great. And I've seen very, very bad contentious situations where you've had to learn how to communicate under pressure, under fire. I've seen it all at this point, or a good bit of it. And some people will not be able to talk about that because they haven't had that actual real world experience in it. It's similar to what I mentioned about interviewing and coaching and etc. You have to make sure whoever it is that you're gaining insight from, they've actually done it. And sometimes you can tell, if you really observe, as I mentioned, the most important skills you want to have communication wise is silence and observing. If you observe, you can pick up when someone is speaking about what their client experienced, which you do want to share your stories, but when they haven't actually done it themselves. And if it's something I haven't done, I will definitely let you all know, but I've done quite a bit over the past 20 years or so now. And this is the reason why it's so important to just be mindful of who you're learning information from. Okay, let's see, something came up. Truth is Speaking said, I hardly pause when I'm with my family or friends. It's about comfort zone. Yes, absolutely. And that is what this dialogue is for in terms of a live. We're talking. I'm talking to you like you're talking. You're at my house. You're talking. We're having a conversation. And yes, that is true. And you don't necessarily have to pause with family or friends, but if you want to make a big point, then practice what I said, and practice the pause. Pausing is strategic in different settings. When you are in a professional setting, you will need to master pauses a lot and be very comfortable with them. When you are with your family and your friends, your colleagues, and etc., then you may not need to pause as much. However, you can still always practice your pausing depending on what you're talking about. So if it's a big announcement you have, you may say, I have a really big announcement. I just paused. I just stopped. And they'd be maybe wondering, I wonder what happened. And sometimes people, believe it or not, Truth is Speaking, they're so used to hearing someone speak that when they stop speaking, they have to look and say, what's going on? Like, why did they stop speaking? And that actually helps them to pay attention. This is something I use oftentimes in public speaking when I'm doing an event. If I'm wanting to really engage the audience, as I was mentioning earlier, I pause at strategic times during a presentation, because when I pause, people are probably thinking, what's going on? Like, why did she stop speaking? Because they're just used to hearing people speak. As I mentioned, I could talk about silence all day. I could talk about silence all day, all night. But there's a lot of times when you use it, and as you mentioned, yes, with family and friends, you may not use pausing as much. It just depends on what you want to do, but it's always good to practice with family and friends so that you continue to practice, because it is a skill that is hard to master in a short session. It's hard to master in 2 days. It is a skill you have to continue to practice every single day, all the time. There's times when you pause and you have to know what's a comfortable pause and an uncomfortable pause. If you pause for a few seconds, that's enough. But if you pause for an extended amount of time, let's say, like, I would say if you were to pause for, more than 10, 15 seconds, that's awkward. There's something wrong with that pause. So it shouldn't be that long. You should be able to time yourself to see what is comfortable for you. So if this is something you want to practice, then definitely reach out to me for a strategy session, and we'll work through whatever it is that you're going through to help you communicate at the higher level. But pausing is very important, as we've talked about at length today during this live. Now, I want to know from you all, if you have any additional questions as it relates to why interviewing is so hard, let me know. We've covered a lot of great information here today. And if you have any questions, if you're watching this on the replay, then just let me know. I will comment and go over it and make sure I respond to what you say. And if you have a video suggestion or a topic that you're interested in, let's say you watch some of my live videos or some of my older recorded videos. Some of those are older, but my live videos are more recent. If you watch a live video and you gain some insight in it and you're wanting to know more about a specific topic, then just put it in the comments and I will record a video just for you. I will absolutely do it. I've done this a couple times for my subscribers here on YouTube. So just let me know if there's something you want me to go into more detail on. I specifically work with women in leadership in terms of helping them get to that next level. But as I mentioned before, I have a lot of people in my audience that are not women in leadership, and I know they're passionate about their journey and communicating at that higher level. So I'm here to help anyone, regardless of gender, be able to speak higher and communicate at a higher level than their peers. That's what I'm here for. That's my mission. That's why I am here with you all. So I appreciate you all being here with me today and spending just some of your time with me. I appreciate you so much. And if you have any questions, let me know. I do go live Tuesday through Friday during the week. There's a lot of lives on my channel, so many lives that YouTube noticed I did so many lives. So I'm on their live streamer research panel right now, shaping their platform in terms of doing live streams. So just keep in mind, if you missed the live today, no problem. Just join me next week. I typically go live Tuesday through Friday now. I used to go live Monday through Friday, but I changed that up because I have a couple things business-wise that I'm working on Mondays in the evenings to get things where they need to be, so I can spend a lot more time with you all and do a lot more things. So just hang in there with me. There's a lot of great videos I'm going to be doing here very soon. If you have any world leaders that you are interested in learning from in terms of how do they communicate this way to engage your audience, or what are some tips that they do when they speak, and you're just wanting to get someone to just analyze it for you so you can use some of their gestures and etc. in your everyday conversations as a professional to help you showcase yourself as that confident leader, then let me know. I'll do some videos for you. I do plan on doing some videos like that here very soon. They're going to be pre-recorded, so I'll look at individuals that are leaders. If you're in different countries, just let me know what country that you're in, and I will take a look at how they're speaking or a specific speech. And maybe it's something that you just really felt just very motivated in. Well, I want to bring whatever it is that they did to you so that you can do the same things too. A lot of times we don't know how to unless somebody shows us, and that's what I'm here for. I will show you how people are making these speeches or giving these responses and being very, very concise in how they're speaking. And so that's another level of videos I plan on doing here on my channel. I had a video from the presidential debate last year. Lord, it's been so long now. I have a video from the presidential debate before here in the United States, And I did talk about both candidates in terms of how they communicate it in an unbiased way. So that gives you some pointers and some strategies to use when you're speaking to other people also. So this will absolutely help you. Just take a look at that. I'm very comfortable commenting on leaders and world leaders. Like, I have no problem doing that and sharing with you what they do so that you can do it in your everyday conversations, so that you can come across as that person that communicates at a higher level, where you can get additional job promotions, you can get additional income, you can run your business, you can communicate with people. All these things I want you to be able to do at that next level. Okay, let's see. Truth is Speaking says, thank you for amazing tips. Yes, I will practice pause with my friends. Absolutely, great. That's fantastic. Friends and family, it will make me tame my impulsive nature. Might help me to choose the right words. Yes, absolutely. If you pause, it gives you time to think. So that is very, very good, and it will help you to choose the right words because you have to think about what you need to say. So I appreciate you all. Truth is Speaking. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the Amazing Leaders group that communicates at that higher level. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions, and if you have any other topics that you want to get some more support in. I will do a video just for you. Just put it in the comments on any of my videos. I'll take a look at it, and I will absolutely give you a shout out in the video. So until then, I hope you all have an amazing week, and I will see you next week, next Tuesday on our live. Bye for now.